everybody. How we doing? Everybody enjoying dinner? Very nice, very nice. My name's Dave. I'm a local Chester Countyan from nearby Downingtown. And the most chaotic time in my life, so there I was, my first year teaching in the public schools. Fresh out of college, a 22-year-old social studies teacher with a full load of 4 classes in 3 different grades. And I decided to be the assistant band director of the marching band. So that wasn't chaotic at all. And I had some wonderful students, and one day I'm in my classroom, and 2 of my students who were my band kids came to my class, and they were all looking sad. And I went, "What's wrong?" And they went, "We're not going to have a season." And I went, "Well, what are you talking about?" And they said, "Our tennis team, it's going to get canceled." I went, "Well, what do you mean?" And so I talked to them, and then I read an email. Long story short, I end up becoming the head boys tennis coach. Because when you look at a physique like this, you think to yourself, there's a guy that plays a lot of tennis. The tennis coach had a death in the family, and her family was in Montana. And they needed a district employee to run the tennis team. So I walked down to the athletic director's office, and the grouchy old athletic director is just sitting there. And I went, "What does it take to be a tennis coach?" And he looked out from behind his desk and went, "You'll do. Practice is on Tuesday." So on top of my full class load and my marching band rehearsals, I start teaching tennis. Coaching, I don't know. Little do I know that you have to actually know stuff about tennis to coach tennis, which I didn't. I had never played tennis. I had watched tennis once when I was too hungover to get off the couch and reach the remote, and it was on ESPN. And we didn't even have enough students to field an entire team. So I immediately go into my social studies classes and tell my kids that if anyone joins the tennis team, you get extra credit. By the end of that day, we had a full team. One of the newly joined ranks of the tennis team was a student of mine named Nate. Nate had been cut from the baseball team and decided to come out and play tennis. Nate never really quite got tennis. He would come off the court after his matches and go, "I had 3 jacks that round, Mr. R." They called me Mr. R. My last name's Rachak. It's Ukrainian, so I was Mr. R. Because he would get frustrated at playing tennis and just hit it out of the tennis court completely. And then he would come announce to me how many home runs he had hit in each set of tennis. We were not very good, but we won 1 match. And it was the day that we won our 1 match when I had probably the most chaotic mental moment I ever had as an educator. Because when you're teaching at the high school level, you hear a lot. Kids say a lot of things to other kids. Some of it's very mean, some of it's very inappropriate, but some of it is also, admittedly, very funny. And as somebody who likes to make fun of my friends, when I hear kids making fun of other kids, there were a lot of times when I would in the back of my head go, I have to remember that one. But of course, on the surface, you shouldn't say that at all. And I always did a very good job of that, except for one exception. One exception, the mental strain was just too much. The day that we won our first match, Nate had finished his match early, and he was standing out by the fence with me, just kind of talking about not tennis. And little Anthony, who was one of my band kids and one of my tennis kids, who stood about 5 foot 1 inch tall, and who had the most adorable little speech impediment you've ever heard, won his one and only individual match of the season. And he ran out of the court, and he ran around the fence, up to me and Nate, and he goes, "Mr. R," and without a moment's hesitation, Nate goes, "Write it down." I could not contain myself. It took every fiber of my being to simply not react and turn and walk away. And that's what chaos can do to you, and that's what chaos did to me that day. So that's my story. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.